aggressive. I love it. Reminds me, I said this race reminds me a little bit like we had the Coors Classic in the United States. So it was always centered around Boulder, and it was incredibly popular because people could, take their summer vacation and they could see stages all within a short area, short distance. Go to the Tour de France and you're lucky to see 10 seconds of the race. It's gone and they pass you by, but it's a great atmosphere. This is, except for cyclists, recreation cyclists, being here is, you can see the riders. I like all the people participating in riding before the race. It's great to have the races, but it's great to see all the people around the race. I can see why the pro riders like to be here.
Yeah.
We run a hotel, people are nice, friendly. It's mainly, I think, the weather is the best part. Like at Cadel Evans, I always thought he was one of the biggest talents, just from his coming from his mountain biking background. But when you're mountain bike riding, you're one of the top. It's a physical, efforts are just similar to the Tour de France, and I think that Cadel came into a period in cycling that's probably very difficult to show his real talent at that time. Then I look at it, the transition after, say, 2006, 7, 8, I think, especially 2010, 11, he rose to the top, which I always kind of figured that's what was going to happen. You take a certain part of the group out, the real talent gets to rise to the top. So I always liked his personality. He does the talking through his legs, not through the mouth. I mean, I was fortunate to start when I did, which I didn't have to even face that. So he started it, but it's great to see that he got to end his career when it really dramatically changed, and his results kind of reflect that. He's always one of my favorites for the tour from early on. That's a tragedy of say that I call it the dark period, but you don't know who really had the talent. Some guys that had the most talent, it could be 10th, 20th, 30th. You just don't know. That's I think caused a lot of frustrations. Who is really the top? Who are the top riders? There's always been, say, cheating in sports. And there's always going to be somebody trying to get away with something. But just the last 2 years racing, 3 years actually, you see the times and power output is down to historical norms, and that's, to me, that's what you'd hope for, and that shows a dramatic change. I'm one that doesn't really hold a grudge, but I'm also realistic in knowing who I'm dealing with, and he's not. I don't think he's ever really shown any real remorse about what he's done. I'm talking. That's not doping. I'm talking what he's done to people's lives.
Yeah,
destroyed them. And he took a good 10 years out of my life. Ben Johnson got a life ban in '88, and he didn't. I mean, relative to me, he doped, but he wasn't involved in a conspiracy to cover up stuff. It wasn't. I said it was a different. I don't think there's any cyclists that I know of that have ever kind of participated at that level of deception. I always argued it's there. It's simmering. It's going to blow up, and I tried to warn that to Trek. And, you're going to get it. You're going to take. It's going to be. I never thought it would last that long. So it's shocking that it lasted. And that's part of
that whole silence thing could last.
Well, it was also just nobody wanted to question it because you could question cancer. That was the Teflon that we had. And any other cyclist after 1999 would have been banned. He was positive 99, so he should never have been able to race after his first positive. And so that's what I said. Yeah, I mean, that's what was really hard because cycling was my life, and there was a major attempt to make sure I'm excluded from, even from the Tour de France at one point. Just I wasn't welcome. That's pretty hard when you have one guy really focused on, eliminating you from your whole life. So it was very stressful, but it's really the way he treated me was I don't like getting threatened or bullied. So I was basically willing to lose everything just to not. It would have been easy to kind of take the silent road, but I didn't say anything. I did 4 interviews in 8 years. I think it's a complicated, it's a huge organization. I mean, you look at cycling, it's a governing body, but they're not really in charge of the races. They're not in charge of the team, so they're trying to I think Brian Cookson, if there's anybody, I think that could help change, bring kind of more structure, more looking at not just. I think for a period it got into almost a war of who's going to control the sport, UCI or the races, and that was really what I think was going on. I believe there was a goal to own the whole sport. Armstrong, Bruggen, you know, somehow buy the tour, consolidate it, and you own a very powerful sport. Kind of turn it what Bernie Ecclestone has done with Formula One. And it's that didn't work. So I mean, I heard rumors. I heard it was confirmed by somebody in ASO that they were trying to buy the tour, Armstrong, and so you know, that would have been a disaster. The UCI is a governing body, and that's what they should do, and enforce the rules, make sure that you know, it's a fair, level playing field. But they should, you know, hopefully they look at trying to do more grassroots and bring people into cycling, not focus purely on the elite. I always think the pros will, you know, you don't need to spend a lot of money on Olympic level athletes. You got to do it on the high school athletes.
Yeah.
Get a lot of young cyclists. You'll have a lot of gold medals. Yeah, the U.S. needs to come down here and actually evaluate how Australia and British cycling have done it. I think it's just there's a little bit more. I think Australia even somehow they were able to tap into a lot of youth riders who tap into talent. I said we were in the U.S. We were always focused so much on, and it's kind of part of the funding part of the Olympic teams, but you know, the governing bodies to get funded to keep their jobs, they have to have medals. So they're short term, they're looking for, you know, training the elite cyclists, but long term, if they wanted to really generate, you know, their revenue and funding, they'd be tapping into talent, high school talent, building grassroots programs. That's where you're going to have the depth of cycling. That's what I think British cycling in Australia, when you think of there's 24 million people in Australia, a lot of amateur riders in Australia. What I like about cycling right now, it's attracting people into cycling just for cycling's sake. And I think it's, when I go back to Europe, you know, you think you can get in the U.S. and it looks pretty just depressing, actually. You think about all the news and all that. When you go back to Europe, it's just, I don't see any slowdown of people's enthusiasm for cycling, which is great. I think it's almost like in America, I always look at it as it's almost, you know, every time you have a rider that's doing well, you bring people into it. I think that's what Armstrong did. It might also, for some people, might turn their stomach a little bit. They stop. They probably weren't long-term players anyway. So people got, I say cycling is like a sport you get hooked on. So once you get hooked on it, doesn't matter what happens with the sport.